According to an ESPN analyst, the entire NBA is interested in making a trade for OG Anunoby, and we got some insight in terms of what a potential return may look like, and it's pretty lucrative, so we'll dive into that as well. As apparently, New York Knicks have already made an offer for OG this season, so we'll discuss what's going on that front, as well as what other NBA analysts have already said about the Toronto Raptors' current losing streak, because the Raptors are currently the main talking point in the NBA news media right now in terms of potential moves being made, so we have a lot of stuff to dive into. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. And the first thing we're taking a look at is the entire league wanting to make a trade for OG Anunoby. Now, this is it makes sense. The Toronto Raptors have been in talking points, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse in terms of being a team that could potentially blow up their roster, and if not, make at least some moves to adjust what's happening, because right now things are not looking too hot for Toronto. We've lost 8 of our last 10. We're on a 6-game losing streak, and there's a history of the Toronto Raptors, not wanting to stay in these positions. We'll dive into that later in the video, but we got some interesting insight from an ESPN analyst, Zach Lowe, who is a big fan of the Toronto Raptors, especially OG Anunoby, in terms of what one of our main centerpieces in a potential trade package, what value he could have on the open market, as it's come out that the entire NBA, the entire league, wants OG Anunoby. Everybody wants him. And if he does get traded, the price and picks are going to surprise people, because it might be on par with almost what the Cleveland Cavaliers had to give up for Donovan Mitchell. Now, this is a wild report. This is pretty insane to look at, because this summer there were OG Anunoby trade rumors going on, and he had a couple of not down seasons, but seasons where OG Anunoby's 25 years old right now, where he didn't take the expected leaps that a lot of Raptor fans and just people across the NBA were sort of expecting him to take. Mainly due to injuries over the course of those 2 seasons. He had incremental jumps, but this year, he really took a massive step forward. And while the rumors and all that stuff were popping up over the off season, and we heard some potential asking prices for trades over the summer. I mean, there's a big one going on with the Portland Trail Blazers that a lot of people in our comment section wanted to see go down. They wanted to see be made happen. And I got a report that come up here, and you can look at previous videos we made over the summer. But in talks between the Blazers and the Toronto Raptors were asking for the current, this most recent season's number 7 pick, which would have been Shaedon Sharpe, a future first-round pick, as well as Josh Hart or Nasir Little in the deal. So that was a deal that I came out on YouTube and said I didn't want to see happen. It wasn't enough for OG Anunoby. His value is too high, even though I got a lot of heat for that, honestly, in our comment sections. Not everyone agreed, or not everyone went at me for it. There was a little bit of a split, but a lot of people said asking price for OG Anunoby is pretty high this offseason. But now we're talking about Zach Lowe saying a return for that Donovan Mitchell netted for the Utah Jazz, what the Cleveland Cavaliers had to give up. I mean, they gave up 3 unprotected first-round picks. Unprotected, no limits on it. And people didn't know how the Cleveland Cavaliers would perform or anything like that. And they also gave up Lauri Markkanen, who his value wasn't as high as it is right now. Lauri Markkanen's having an insane season for the Utah Jazz, but a really, really solid starting caliber, upper echelon starter in the NBA. That's what his value was sort of worth this offseason, as well as a prospect in Colin Sexton, who hasn't had everything work out for him, but definitely has a lot of value on the trade market. Maybe not as much as the Cavs were hoping, but, is a solid NBA player, as well as a young rookie prospect. So 3 first-round picks, a rookie prospect, and 2 legitimate starting caliber NBA players. That's what Donovan Mitchell netted for the Cleveland Cavaliers, or for the Utah Jazz. And if OG Anunoby's in that stratosphere, in that realm of in terms of a potential package, that's going to blow any of the rumors, any of the offers we heard over the summer out of the water. And it makes sense, right? You look at OG Anunoby's stats. He's been remarkable this season, averaging 19 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2.5 steals, absolutely clamping up every single player he's matched up against with the season. Shooting 47% from the field, which is remarkably efficient given what he's asked to do. And the entire Raptors' three-point shooting stats have been down this season. He's traditionally a 40% three-point shooter, down to the low 30s right now at this point. But that's going to get you some serious value on the open market. And we've already seen teams make some offers, and the first team we've really heard reported and stuff is the New York Knicks have reached out about a potential OG Anunoby deal. Now, there's also kind of rumors about this early on before the season started this year, but the Knicks have been intrigued about potentially acquiring OG Anunoby, and Zach Lowe sort of linked the potential return to what Donovan Mitchell was asking price was for him from the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the Knicks were also a team that was really desperately trying to acquire Donovan Mitchell, and one player that they consistently threw in those packages was RJ Barrett, and they had potential packages with RJ Barrett being offered along with a multitude of first-round picks. And I'll break down the report before I dive into any potential trade packages. But internally, the Knicks were well aware of things that were teetering, according to Ian Begley of SNY TV. But before this most recent winning streak, someone from the club reached out to the Toronto Raptors to ask about trading for OG Anunoby. That's a trade that would have come at a significant cost. It's not a move you make unless you know you have to shake up your roster. So, the New York Knicks, they're a squad that are interested in making a deal. They've already made an offer for OG Anunoby this season, and as the season's gone along, as the asking prices increase, if Zach Lowe is correct, if he is coming true about saying that OG Anunoby's open market trade value is at the level of where Donovan Mitchell's was this offseason, then we could get a serious haul in return from the New York Knicks. Now, the one player that will likely come back, who might not excite a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, at least at this point, is RJ Barrett. Now, he's a guy that was really strong. You ask any New York Knicks fan, how RJ Barrett was doing last season, and he was on a really strong growth trajectory. But right now, the inefficiencies have sort of come into play, and while he's still young, while he's still an encouraging player, he's on a big contract, and he plays defense, but his offense has really struggled now at this point. I mean, you're looking at his stats for this season, right? RJ Barrett's averaging still 19 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, but 30% from behind the three-point line, and the field goal percentage is only at 41%. He gets not getting the steals or blocks close to what OG's getting, in 2.4 turnovers. Not that elite, but the Toronto Raptors are going in that youth movement direction. There's still insane potential from RJ Barrett coming into this Raptors team, and he's a high draft pick, a top 3 pick in a draft a few seasons ago, and coming into a Raptors development staff, still as a young player, as a Canadian, could be an interesting fit. So, if the New York Knicks are looking to make a deal, they're looking to make an offer, and it's at the level of a Donovan Mitchell potential trade package, right? RJ Barrett could be coming in the way of the Toronto Raptors if we do make a deal with the Knicks, along with some first-round picks. Now, I don't know how Knicks fans would feel about that, because obviously OG Anunoby doesn't have the sort of name power as a Donovan Mitchell on the open market, but definitely something to look out for. And I imagine all the rumors are only going to pick up in coming weeks. So definitely stay tuned to the Raptors Digest for that. But the next thing we're taking a look at is history shows that a move is likely coming for the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Raptors are in a weird position right now. I've mentioned multiple times in this podcast, we've lost 6 straight, and 8 of the last 10. Things are looking ugly right now. We're not closing games, and we had a little Raptors therapy session last night, right? We were discussing the post game about, do we blow it up? Do we tank? And I'm still on team, let's not blow it up. Let's not make any wild trades. But that could change if things continue to go worse, things continue to go bad, and we're just really not in a position to even make a little run in the playoffs. It's only December, but nothing drastic has to happen. But I've also made the prediction that I do think a trade will end up going down, right? I've locked it in, I booked it. You can see my 2 main predictions right now. More of these will be coming in coming podcasts once we figure out what's going on with the Toronto Raptors. But my first prediction's looking pretty bad, but my second one is trade will be made come the trade deadline. And I've locked this one and I booked it. And if you guys want to book in any predictions you're making this season, whether it be futures about potential trades surrounding the NBA, right, which we're going to make custom for you guys, what you guys are interested in using the Cool Bet app. If you want to predict on any games, make some money on predicting whether it be Raptors games, NBA games, or games of any other sports, definitely use the Cool Bet app. The link is down in the description below. It helps out the podcast. It's free to sign up, and you can get the best odds for their sportsbook. regulated in Ontario, across Canada, and you can make your best sports predictions using the Coolbet app. So definitely check that down below. And it seems like a safe bet that the Toronto Raptors could be making a trade right now, as Blake Murphy gave some interesting insight to the last time the Toronto Raptors had a 5-game losing streak, and during the Masai Ujiri era, and it's not quite unprecedented, but basically we had a couple of them during the Tampa Tank season, and we ended up tanking, blowing up we're just sitting guys. Masai Ujiri had that infamous quote where he's saying, "Play in for what? We're not trying to be a mid-level team." We ended up acquiring Scotty Barnes. So that's one direction we went the last time we had a 5-game win streak. We're losing streak, sorry. And that losing streak is currently up to 6 right now. And then the next time was during the season where we ended up making an Ibaka as well as a PJ Tucker trade immediately after the losing streak was occurring. So the Raptors were losing some games. We ended up sending away Terrence Ross to the Orlando Magic in return for Serge Ibaka. And then the day of the trade deadline, a couple days later, we sent out a couple second-round picks as well as Jared Sullinger for PJ Tucker. So that's the deal that ended up going down following another losing streak we had. Then we had a losing streak prior to the Wizards sweep, and then after that losing streak, we sent away Gravis Vasquez in return for Norman Powell and OG Anunoby, or the picks that became those players, and let Lou Williams walk. We really shook up the roster that off season. And the final thing is, we had a 5-game losing streak, and then we made the Rudy Gay trade immediately after, right? So we sent Rudy Gay straight to Sacramento in return for Gravis Vasquez, Patrick Patterson, John Salmons, and Chuck Hayes. So following losing streaks, there's usually shakeups happen in the roster. Masai Ujiri's not someone to sit lightly with just ugly Toronto Raptors basketball. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with my prediction? Not my first one, because I don't think anyone's going to agree with my top 3 seed take right now. But a trade will be made come the NBA trade deadline. Let me know in the comment section below. But the next thing we're taking a look at is rival executives are eyeing Raptors trade availability, and these are just quick ones, quick updates surrounding the league, because I just want to cover everything that's going on in potential trade scenarios around this Toronto Raptors team. We're covering everything on the Raptors Digest, but Jake Fisher's come out and said that the Toronto Raptors team rivals are looking at things aren't obviously going smoothly. I had someone in the New York Knicks organization recently telling me that we should have gone after Fred VanVleet the year we didn't, and I've been struck by how many people from other teams are looking at the Raptors and saying that. So, I pulled that from Reddit, but it's a quote from Jake Fisher. So, Jake Fisher obviously is a guy that's not reporting on, he's not Woj or anything like that. He doesn't report on things as they've officially happened, but he has a lot of ears and a lot of front offices, and he's hearing that a lot of rival executives have had their eyes on Toronto Raptors players, and what the Toronto Raptors are doing. So we're going to be a main piece, and it's encouraging because the Raptors have been losing, and sometimes when your team sucks, right, you get into the position where you're like, hey, we can't get off of any of these dudes. So it's nice that other front offices are looking at potentially making trades with us. And the final thing that we're taking a look at is a Ringer analyst labels the Raptors as a team that's in blow-up territory. So this is coming from Kevin O'Connor, who's a pretty insightful guy over at the Ringer. They make good content over there, but he's essentially said that the Raptors are in blow-up territory. They're 13-17. They're 13-18 right now. They've lost 6 straight. Their team looks broken, which is very true. There's no realistic path to contention, not at least this season. We're only 3.5 games from the bottom 4, which would get us a very high potential at landing Victor Wembanyama. Veterans look like they could get a haul for, and they have young talent to build around, making it more of a retool rather than a long rebuild. So Kevin O'Connor put out a long list of why the Toronto Raptors could potentially blow up their roster. We'll see what ends up happening, but let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. Do you want to see an OG Anunoby trade end up going down? Do you think the Raptors will end up making more minor deals? Let me know in the comment section below. You guys are the best for making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.